Should you rent to Section 8 tenants, or do you fear that they will totally jack up your place and cause total chaos and you'll lose all your rentals and you'll be living in a van down by the river at some point? Is that your fear? Whether or not you should rent to Section 8 tenants. That is what this video is all about, so stick around. Hey, it's Randy Wolfe, and thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to be talking about Section 8. So Section 8 is affordable housing, and it is a situation that can really be a positive, wonderful experience for you as a real estate investor, or it can be an absolute disaster of a nightmare. And I'm going to talk about that and kind of how you can hopefully have a better experience if you decide that you are going to take housing vouchers and rent to what is formerly known as Section 8 housing. So it's subsidized housing, and I can tell you my personal experience overall has been pretty good with it. I have had some very not fun experiences with it. I've gone through a couple of difficult tenants, but for the most part, I have to say I've had a very good experience with Section 8 housing. One of the things that people often overlook is the fact that when you lease to someone that is receiving assistance and on Section 8, you actually are still able to go through your normal tenant screening. And so the first piece of advice that I would give you is make sure you screen the tenant. So when I go through and I actually screen the tenant, I look at their background, I look at their credit, I have them complete an application and figure out whether or not they have had any evictions in their past, if they've ever had a foreclosure, if they've ever had repossessed vehicles, that sort of thing, anything that pops up in that credit report. Obviously, the income is going to be something I really don't look at per se, because again, housing is going to be paying either all of their rent or the bulk of their rent. But I do want to see, like, if they have a certain portion that they're going to be paying, I do want to make sure that they have enough income coming in from elsewhere that they can cover their portion. But I actually have one Section 8 tenant that is receiving 100% rent subsidy, so she does not pay any portion of her rent. I have another Section 8 tenant who she pays pretty much the whole thing. Like, they pay a very nominal portion of her rent. And I have yet again another Section 8 tenant that is actually transitioning off of Section 8, and she's going to now be covering her entire rent because I think she had got a better job or something like that. But at the end of the day, you want to screen your tenants because you are in charge of the tenants that you place in your property. So, but if you don't have a property manager, do the same exact thing you normally do. Keep it consistent, and you don't necessarily need to worry as much about the actual income. Now, when I have run into trouble with tenants, it's typically been more around the line of them running into either some financial distress and they can't pay their portion, which has really been pretty rare. I haven't had that happen too often, but also it's been a situation where some of those properties have had a little bit more wear and tear on them. So again, it's all kind of relevant, but I will say, looking back, most all of my Section 8 tenants, I take care of maintenance and repairs, so I provide them good quality housing that's safe, and so most of my Section 8 tenants stay a very long time. I'm thinking as I'm shooting this video, I may have not had any Section 8 tenant turnover. I think maybe the Section 8 tenants I have, I don't even think that I've actually had any that's left. So I'd have to go back and look at that. But basically, you typically are going to have, if you provide good quality housing, a benefit is that oftentimes they will stay for a very long time. If you are a good landlord, you provide quality housing, you fix things when it breaks, that sort of thing. One thing I am very strongly stressed with our tenants is I have a lot of Section 8 tenants that they're either they fall under typically one of two things. One, they're elderly, or two, it just happens to be that most of mine are single mothers. And so one of the things that I stress is if there's any other adult that is going to be residing in this property or going to be staying longer than 3 days in a given month, they need to fill out a background, because basically what you don't want is you don't want to have a good quality tenant in there, clean background, nothing crazy in their background, and then all of a sudden that tenant brings another adult onto the property who does not have a clean background, or is not the type of person that you want living in your property. Maybe that they come in there and they tear it up, or they bring like trouble with the people that they're hanging out with. And so again, as the landlord, you have the right to say, hey, look, any adult that's going to come live in this property or spend more than a few days a month in this property, we want to have a background check. And you can have that in your lease, and that can be understood. And then again, if you find out that someone is staying there, go ahead and say, hey, they're going to have to submit an application so we can run a background check on them to make sure that they are allowed to be on the property. Because what you don't want, and again, this doesn't always happen, it's not always the case, but what you don't want is you have a nice tenant and they have someone that they're bringing in to live in the property with them that is not a good person or a good tenant for your property. Because I've seen it before, where situations where trouble happens when it's someone that you don't even know maybe is living in the property. They move in, and now all of a sudden you got chaos with you've got, whether it be drugs, or you've got situations with they're tearing up the property, or they're causing disturbances with other neighbors, that sort of thing. So background checks, very, very, very important. The other thing is you want to set the standard. So when you have a tenant that moves in, all of my tenants, they get sort of a packet whenever they move in, and they understand what our standards are. So if you don't make things clear at the beginning, you could run into problems. I'll give you an example that for most of you watching this video right now, this is pretty obvious, especially if you're a homeowner. Don't pour grease down the sink. Seems pretty normal, like that's pretty obvious, right? I mean, I'm in South Carolina. Here in the South, we cook with a lot of, grease and oils and stuff like that. So, hey, it's kind of known ever since I was a kid, like you don't pour grease down the sink. Obviously, it causes issues with the plumbing. Well, apparently a lot of people don't know that, apparently. So, that's something that's in there, like, hey, don't do this. Don't flush large items down the toilet that shouldn't be going down the toilet. Like, it's pretty common, things that you would say, well, of course people know that. But if you don't spell that out, if you don't have a process for whenever they move in, like a move-in process and a move-out process, if you don't have that sort of clearly laid out, that's where you can run into problems. And so nothing is, I've seen some crazy stuff. So don't be afraid to put in there a detailed list of things that they can do and shouldn't do. If you have small multifamily, for example, you could have something in there about after a certain time in the evening, like it's deemed quiet, like you can't be loud and disruptive to the other tenants in your property. Because there again, if you don't put that in there, it's like, well, I didn't know I couldn't have a house party at 2 a.m. and there's nothing that says we can't do that. So be very specific in your expectations of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Next, and I alluded to this a moment ago, but vacancy is really a killer when it comes to rental properties. So when you think about, I guess when you're first getting started in investing in rental properties, people don't necessarily put as much thought into it, but here's the way to really look at this, okay? So you have a tenant, let's say they've been there for a year. A year comes up, they're like, hey, we're gonna move out. Like, okay. So they get ready to move out. Typically what you wanna make sure you can do is start marketing the property before they move out. So that is something, let me take a step back, like definitely write this down, do this. Be sure to market your property before they actually move out, because obviously you want to get qualified tenants in the pipeline that you can evaluate so that when they move out, hopefully there's a very small window of vacancy, if any. The second thing is you're marketing the property. If you do what I said before and you have a very specific checklist of you're going to check out whenever you move out, these are all the things that need to be done. Like my checklist goes in depth, all of it. The house basically needs to look like it looked when you moved into it. Don't leave anything in the refrigerator or the freezer, stuff like that. You don't even think about that, but then someone moves out and they leave stuff in there and the power gets turned off, and now all of a sudden you got nastiness in the house. So it's everything from don't leave stuff in the freezer. I had someone I'm not even kidding, I had someone recently move out and they took all the light bulbs. And so of course in my checkout list, I never had anything in there about hey, don't take the light bulbs. But now I'm thinking maybe I should put that in there, hey, obviously leave the light bulbs and stuff, don't take that stuff. But anyway, took all the light bulbs. It was crazy. But so there's a clear understanding of what needs to be done before they move out so that they can get their security deposit back. Then when you get close to time, a few days prior to when they're going to move out, it's a good idea if you can get in there or have your property manager get in there and just kind of assess the situation. Because if it's something to where it's hopefully after only a year not going to be a whole lot of stuff that needs to be taken care of, you literally could have someone potentially move in without having any kind of vacancy if the house is going to be ready in just a couple of minor things. But unfortunately, what happens sometimes is you go in there and you look, and it's just that it needs to be repainted. Maybe they had an animal in there and it's messed up the carpet and all that. And so now all of a sudden you've got to deal with all of this. So then even if you maybe had a tenant ready, sometimes it's not going to work out because they need to move in right away and you've got to get the property rent ready. And so vacancy is a killer. And so one of the things that you can do in order to keep tenants for a long time, in particular Section 8, is, as I said before, provide them with good quality, safe housing. Just because it's Section 8 doesn't mean that you should skimp on making the house nice and safe and all the things. There's some new regulations coming out with housing where they actually just, I think it goes into effect next year, but it's some new inspection requirements. They typically inspect the homes every year, and I've even had some situations pop up where it was something pretty minimal, but like the bathtub had a drip and they failed my inspection, so I had to fix that. And it was kind of like, well, it's a little tiny drip, but whatever. But there are even some more stringent things that are coming out now where with this new, I think it's called Inspire or something like that is the new, I'd have to look at it, but it's the new standards, and so they're getting a little bit more stringent on their standards. But again, go above and beyond, like have good quality housing, make it safe. If you have small multifamily housing where like a duplex or a triplex or quad, that sort of thing, put good quality tenants in there so that those tenants don't, if you have a bad tenant, they don't run everybody out. If you've got a triplex and you've got two wonderful tenants and one problem tenant, that problem tenant can end up causing the other good tenants to move out because they don't want to be around the problem tenant. So that's why it's important that not only you get a good quality tenant in your home so that they don't tear it up and that they hopefully will stay a long time, but they don't disrupt and cause issues with other tenants, or if it's a single family home, cause you a lot of headaches by getting in disagreements and problems with neighbors and that sort of thing. But if you do that, and if you repair things that need repairs promptly, you give them good safe place to stay, that sort of thing, a lot of times, as I've said, your Section 8 tenants will stay a long, long time. Nobody likes to move, and if they are having good, safe, quality housing, typically it's been my experience that if you vet your tenants properly, you can find good tenants that will stay a long, long time. And so I would say my overall experience would have to be good. And I would say if you're considering it, don't be scared away from all the horror stories that you hear, because I'll say this, there's a lot of times where I have had tenants that I thought were going to be really good tenants, non-Section 8, that turn out not to be. And then there's times where I've had people that I put in a property that I'm like, I'm going to go ahead, and they work out okay, And then I've had times where I was like, I don't know if these are going to work out. I'm going to give them a shot. And then I'm like, yep, should have listened to my intuition. Like, shouldn't have done that. They're a problem. But be sure to have good, solid background checks and things of that nature when you put them in the property, and you will be surprised. It's a good program that gives good people that just maybe are in a bad spot in their life. It gives them a good opportunity to have safe housing for them and their children. And I have an elderly lady right now. She's awesome. She's such a sweet lady, and she's in a small town. One of my rentals that I've got in a small town, and she is the sweetest lady. And her portion that she pays is, I think it's less than like $70 a month, and she does not know how to use technology. Like, she's just old lady. And so I said, I'll tell you what. I said, you just go to the bank and you deposit your portion in this account right here, and that's how we'll collect rent for you, like your portion of the rent. Because I know you can't do the turbo tenant and all that thing. So that's literally what she does. And it's funny because every so often I will actually go in there and look at at the bank account or talking to my bookkeeper and like, what is this? And then I go back and I see, just like clockwork, this sweet old lady, every single month at the same time, it's like right at the first of the month, she goes and she puts her, $70 in the deposits her money into our receivables account. And it just goes to show she's a sweet lady, she's a good lady, she's an honest lady, and she just needs some good quality housing. And so there's been a couple of maintenance issues that came up over the years, and I'm very quick to get those taken care of. She's happy, and this lady will be there, Lord willing, for years and years and years. I hope she lives to 100, because she's such a sweet lady, and I'm sure if she does, she'll be there as long as she can possibly stay in a home. So check it out, see if that's something that you might be interested in. Don't be afraid of all the horror stories that you hear. And last thing I'll say, because I always want to remind people of this when they're watching my videos, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel and click on the notifications. Also, I'll put in the notes below, in the description below, I have a community. This community is a wonderful community. It's got a lot of other new real estate investors, some that are actually not new, that have been around the game for a while. It's got mentorship. I'm actually in there helping people, mentoring people, answering questions, providing content that's in addition to what's on YouTube that you can get for absolutely free. Here, I'm getting more in depth by mentorship and helping people when they have situations come up. So check that out too. Again, it's description will be the description. The link will be in the description below. And as always, I appreciate you watching. Comment below if there's any videos you'd like me to put out, any content. I'm always looking to try to add more value to this channel. Thanks for watching, and y'all take it easy. Bye.